Hey guys, maybe some of you already know that Season 5 will have another PTR, so Public Test Run server, which is actually launching today on Tuesday. And from today you will have exactly 1 week time to test some of the new stuff that will be released in Season 5, and especially to try out some of the new builds, because you will have access to new aspects, new uniques, to the patch that was also released a few days ago. So yeah, you will have access to all of that stuff for 1 week. And today also another interesting thing happened to me. So I saw the video from Wudijo, and he shared this Datamined sheet here from Wowhead. So Wowhead is data mining from time to time the patch notes from Blizzard, and because, well, the thing is, we have official patch notes from Blizzard, but there's always some hidden stuff which is not shown in the patch notes. So we need some guys like the guys from Wowhead to data mine the stuff in order to get the idea of the 100% true changes coming to the game. And the most exciting thing that I have discovered in this data mining is this new aspect of creeping death. So maybe you remember, creeping death used to be a malignant heart in Season 1. So for all of you who played Season 1, you might remember this. So the rogues, this was a malignant heart for the rogue class, and it allowed us to, well, scale our poison damage in a very effective way. So I'm not sure if this even got nerfed, or if it's the same as it used to be. I think it was 40% instead of 20%. But the idea here is you deal up to 20% more increased damage over time to enemies for each different crowd control effect they're afflicted by. And versus staggered bosses, you deal 40% increased damage over time. So the idea here was you just stack a lot of crowd control effects, and back then in Season 1 this was much harder than it is right now, because right now in the game we have tempering, and with tempering we have some temper recipes like Worldly Endurance, where we have access to 4 or 5 different crowd control effects. So with each rogue, even in Season 4, this is a standard meta right now, that each rogue applies all of these different crowd control effects. So we have dazing, we have immobilizing, stunning, freezing, slowing. So yeah, exactly 4 to 5 different crowd control effects. And you can imagine how powerful this aspect can be. So just like the Malignant Heart in Season 1, I remember I had a lot of fun with it. The poison ticks were very high back then. And so here you just can read this as 20% multiplied by 5, because it's very easy to achieve 4 to 5 different crowd control effects. So this will lead into 100% increased poison damage on any poison rogue build. So we have Andariel's Visage Rogue, for example, or we could also play with Poison Imbuement and Twisting Blades or some stuff like that. And actually I can show you gameplay videos. So maybe you saw my latest Andariel's Visage Heartseeker guide. When I uploaded my guide, the Andariel's Visage still was bugged, so we still had to wait for hotfix. And now it got hotfixed, so the buff that applied in the latest mid-season patch is now working. Andariel's Visage is dealing 50% more damage. It can proc now of the monsters itself and not of the player. So it's much more effective damage-wise, and also a lot more fun to play. And here you can see my Andariel Visage Heartseeker Rogue. So this is the ranged version of Andariel's Visage Rogue. And all the damage comes from the poison ticks from Andariel's Visage. So I'm not playing with Victimize or any other key passive stuff. So this is not the classical Victimize Heartseeker Rogue, but all of the damage comes from Andariel's Visage. And you can see already here in Season 4 with the recently buffed version of Andy, we have a pretty good time here. So yeah, I can speedrun this tier 100s pretty quickly. So I'm not sure how this compares exactly to something like the original Victimized Heartseeker Rogue. I think it's pretty close in terms of speed farming. Maybe Victimized is still a little bit faster, but I also have a little bit, like, slightly less optimal gear on the setup here than I had on my Victimized Rogue. So I can't say for sure how this compares to each other, but it should be very close. And in fact, Andariel's Poison Rogue is very powerful, at least S tier, especially if you play it with something like Puncture. So Xario is famous for his Puncture Flurry version of Andariel's Visage. which is about 40% more effective than this version here. But for all of you who are enjoying range stroke, this is also a very good alternative. And yeah, here you can see that I'm clearing this tier 100s in about 2 minutes. And the point that I want to make here is with Season 5, when we get this Malignant Heart aspect, Creeping Death, we will deal twice the damage that you just saw here. And here I'm not even running my optimal gear, so I still have about 50% more damage that I can get with optimal gear, I think. So yeah, doubling up this crazy amount of damage. So Xario is doing, I think, more than 1 billion poison damage on during boss fights with his puncture version. So 1 billion will translate into 2 billions with Creeping Death, or actually less, because well, versus bosses is not as effective as versus normal monsters. You will only get 40% more damage buff, poison buff, but still very good. So I'm very excited to try out this new aspect, and I'm pretty sure it will be crazy. So Poison Rogue has some pretty interesting stuff coming in Season 5. Not only this Creeping Death aspect, but we also have some other improvements. So for example, Smoke Grenade now can also apply poisoning to enemies. We also have Alchemical Advantage reworked a little bit. It also provides with up to 15% lucky hit chance and not only attack speed bonus. So Alchemical Advantage is pretty busted Season 5. And so some small changes here and there in Season 5 for the Rogue class, and I think Poison Rogues will be very powerful. So I wanted to share this with you, and also the second part of this video, I also want to talk about poison scaling in general. So maybe you also want to make a Poison Rogue during this PTR, so all of you who are playing on a PC, so Steam or Blizzard or Xbox Game Pass. On PC, you can get access to the PTR. It's not available to console players, as far as I know. So, yeah, here it says only PC Battle.net accounts. So, yeah, sorry for that, not even Steam players. But if you want to participate in the PTR, I just want to give you an idea how you can make a poison build and how you can make it work. So, back then in Season 2 already, I think, or Season 3, I'm not sure, we got some stuff that we can rely on in order to help us calculating poison damage or understanding how poison damage works in this game. So, first of all, I think it's a good idea to take a look at my planner here again. So this is my Andariel Heartseeker Rogue, and here you can see my gear that I'm wearing. And so I just want to make the point here that poison damage is scaling in a very direct way, and maybe I can also show you my my paint graphic first. So here you can see the basic damage formula for poison damage with Andariel's Visage, and secondly I will show you also for Poison Imbuement. So with Andariel's Visage, you basically want to max out these values here. You want a very high lucky chance in order to proc it. So Andariel's Visage is working with a lucky chance effect. So you have a 20% lucky chance to proc this poisoning damage. That's why lucky chance is very important. Then you want to maximize your attack speed as far as possible. So you want as low attack speed casting animation frame as possible. I will also show you that in a second. And then you want all of your other damage multipliers. So you have multiplicative damage multipliers, you have additive damage multipliers, and then you have your primary stat, which is dexterity for the Rogue class, which also acts as an own damage multiplier. So these are basically the 5 important things in order to scale your poison damage with Andariel's Visage. And the important part here is this multiplicative damage here. So multiplicative damage can have many sources. So it can have skills, it can have aspects, and it can have also stuff from your Paragon board, from your nodes, your glyphs, and all of that stuff. And I can actually show you a graphic that I've prepared, which just shows an example of how you can calculate this poison damage, or for you to get a better idea how poison damage scaling works. So here, all of this stuff here that you can see are multiplicative damage, so damage multipliers for something like Andariel's Visage Poison build. So you can see here we have aspects with Retribution, Noxious Eyes, T-Board's Will, Concussive, Elements, Inner Calm. And each of these aspects give you some sort of multiplicative damage bonus. So Retribution currently is bugged and double dipping, leading into 2.56 damage multiplier if you place it on a two-hander weapon and with the Rogue class. That's why this number is so high. And something like Noxious Eyes, if you put it on the Amulet, for example, you have some 50% more aspect power. That's why you have a 45% damage multiplier. And all of the rest here are just the normal damage multipliers. So we have 20% and 30%. So here, these aspects multiplied together will lead into a factor of 9. So they multiply my total damage by the factor 9. And then you have the same with skills and Paragon. So with skills you have something like Venom, Frigid Finesse, Exploit, Malice, Close Quarters Combat passive, so the key passive of Rogue, which basically doubles your damage once you reach about 1000 crowd control damage to crowd control enemies. Smoke Grenade, Caltrops, and Poison Traps. So these are the typical damage multipliers from your skills, leading into 14.3 damage multiplier, total multiplier with this perfect endgame gear. And also your Paragon has some multipliers. So you have Eldritch Bounty legendary node, you have Tracker Glyph, Bane Glyph, Canny Glyph, Cheap Shot node, Exploit node, Control Glyph, Fluidity Glyph, Exploit Glyph, which acts like a vulnerable enabler of 20%. And even Deadly Ambush is currently bugged in Season 4 and maybe will still be bugged in Season 5. So also Deadly Ambush actually increases your damage by 23% if enemies are affected by trap skills. So yeah, these are all the sources basically of multiplicative damage, aspects, skills, and Paragon. And then you have additive damage and dexterity. So additive damage is also something you can calculate. For your endgame character, you just add up all of the additive damage values you have. So in the perfect endgame gear, you have something like 25, multiplier of 25 additive damage, which is pretty huge. So this is the biggest damage bucket in the game. And also dexterity will give you some sort of damage multiplier. So also in the case of high-end gear, best in slot high-end gear, you will have about a 3 times multiplier from dexterity. And attack speed bonus is a little bit more difficult to calculate, but I will show you this in a minute. So this is based on the breakpoints frame casting breakpoints in the game, which you can also calculate if you really want to go deep into it. So this also leads into some sort of attack speed bonus multiplier. So then the last thing you have to do, then you also have your lucky chance. This is also a little bit more complicated to calculate, but just an example for endgame Rogue build again. And here you can see all the damage multipliers are multiplied by each other, then multiplied with Andariel's Visage base damage itself. Then you have damage reduction from the enemies as well. So at level 105 or higher, I believe, the monsters have 75% damage reduction. So your damage is only effective at 25%. But all in all, this leads into about 1 billion DPS per second, so damage per second, with this setup here. So just to give you an idea of how poison damage scales and how it can be calculated roughly. And so this is all I wanted to show you for this damage calculation here. And now we can take a quick look at this attack speed cap, which I was talking about. So I basically show you this in every single, in every guide that I release. And also people still ask me how they can get access to this document. Actually, it's very easy. You just have to make a new copy. So this is in German here, sorry for that. But here you just have to go create copy. This is also mentioned here. And then you can just use it and calculate the stuff on your own. So this will help you calculating, determining how much attack speed you need for the next breakpoint. And you usually want to have as low breakpoints as possible. So 10 breakpoints would be ideal, but it's very difficult or not possible to reach. So this is a very good calculator. And if you need help understanding it, you can go to one of my guides. And also with Lucky Hit, actually, I also have a guide where I explain how Lucky Hit chance works in the game. I can also link it down in the description. Okay, so this is how poison damage scaling works for Andariel's Visage. I hope you get an idea with all of the different damage multipliers that are possible when making a build. And now I also want to cover Poison Imbuement, because I think in Season 5 we will also have some very nice Poison Imbuement builds, something like Twisting Blades or even Flurry with Poison Imbuement. So this works a little bit different from Andy's Visage, but not too different. So the main difference is here, with Andy's Visage, we actually have flat damage coming from Andy Visage. So we have this flat damage of, I think, 30k. And now we don't have it with Poison Imbuement. So instead of Poison Imbuement, what happens is you have your weapon damage. So for example, your daggers, if you're playing with Twisting Blades, then the damage is scaling from your daggers to your swords. And this is multiplied by your skill damage. So you have skill damage, for example, Twisting Blades, it has some amount of percentage. So for example, you deal 100% skill damage with Twisting Blades. And then this skill damage again is multiplied by your Poison Imbuement skill damage. So you have Poison Imbuement, which is also has a percentage value in its skill, and this it gets multiplied. So these three things multiply each other, and they lead into a value which is similar to Andy Visage flat damage. So we have 30k flat damage from Andy Visage, and here we will also have some amount of flat damage. And then you basically multiply these values again by the same values as you can see here. So you have your attack speed bonus multiplier, you have your multiplicative damage multiplier, you have your additive damage, and your dexterity. And here again, we have this multiplicative damage bucket, which can be a little bit tricky, and you need to know which things work and which things don't work. And for that, we also have a very nice Poison Imbuement Bible, which is, I think, originally made from Averlin. I'm not sure how to pronounce this guy. Sorry for that. Very nice rogue tester. So he's testing most of the rogue stuff in this game. So yeah, big shout outs to Ava. Very nice guy. And I will also link this in the description. And here you can see this Poison Imbuement Bible. So basically you have a sheet which gives you an overview of every glyphs, aspect, passive, skills, nodes, stats in the game, and shows you what works with Poison Imbuement and what doesn't. So for example, Condemnation does not work with Poison Imbuement. So generating 40% more damage by common points with Condemnation will not increase your Poison Imbuement damage with something like Twisting Blades. Also, Wind Force is not working, Expectant is not working, Edge Masters is not working, so you will not increase your poison damage by playing with the Edge Masters aspect, which increases your damage by 20% while at full energy. And also Weapon Mastery, for example, is not working. So yeah, here you just have an overview. And if you are making your own Poison Imbuement build, you can just check the things that work and things that do not work with Poison Imbuement. So yeah, this is all the information I think that I wanted to share with you. So I'm very hyped about this aspect of Creeping Death. This will basically double our poison damage and also increase the damage versus staggered bosses. Very nice aspect. I will probably make some Poison Imbuement build while the PTR as well, so something like Poison Flurry or Poison Twisting Blades, I'm not sure yet. And yeah, of course you can follow my channel here, so leave me a subscription and you will not miss on these guides that I will release in the next week. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you and you learned something. So please leave me a like, subscribe to this channel, and I guess I see you in the next videos, guys. Have a nice day and bye bye.